Welcome to the video, guys. It seems there has been a review into the Labour Party's election performance last year, which, as you all know, was a complete and utter disaster that we all laughed at during the election night and every day since whenever we think about the Labour Party and its former leader, the Corbynated chicken. You might remember before the election, for a few months at least, the Labour Party, for the first time in history, rejected the chance to go to the polls and possibly take control of the country, because obviously they knew they never stood a chance with Jeremy Corbyn leading them, or the anti-British rabble that makes up its ranks, as you all know. Well, this Labour review has gone into some great detail with a total of 150 pages, meaning I am not going to sit there and read through it all, but The Guardian, among many others, have picked up on it and are pointing out some of the more important parts of it, so we'll take a quick look at that. The first article we'll look at headlines: Dysfunctional Toxic Culture Led to Labour Defeat. Major report finds. Exclusive. Party has a mountain to climb to return to power, says Labour Together review. Now, you might remember at the time of the election, when they lost, I said Labour don't stand a chance of winning an election for 15 to 20 years, and I literally meant it. The Labour Together review also points that out because no party has ever overturned the kind of defeat that Jeremy Corbyn led the Labour Party to last year. Labour has a mountain to climb if it is to get back into power, according to a major review of the 2019 general election defeat, which paints a picture of dysfunctionality, toxicity and adrift inside the party's election fighting machine. Negative perceptions of Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, doubts about the manifesto and the party's ambivalent Brexit stance reinforced each other in a snowballing effect to deliver December's catastrophic result, the 150-page report by the party group Labour Together argues, which, as you will all agree, is spot on. They are certainly some of the reasons why the Labour Party lost at the last election, and in such a catastrophic fashion as it says there. It continues, however, it was also the product of 2 decades of demographic and political change that hit the party's traditional base and could endanger more seats in 2024. Labour's electoral coalition had been fracturing for a long time and was broken in 2019. We were rejected by many of the communities we were founded to represent, says the report seen by The Guardian. We lost all types of voters everywhere compared with 2017, except in London. Yeah, and the reasons you've put up there, I must say, Labour, are not the only reasons why you lost a hell of a lot of voters at the last election. The Brexit stance, your manifesto and Jeremy Corbyn obviously played a big part, but the Labour Party's anti-British values are another thing that this whole report seems to miss out. There is no one on this planet that can sit there and tell me the Labour Party is for the people of this country or supports this country in any way. Every time you hear one of their MPs speak, they are literally putting down this country in one way or another. Just take the last couple of weeks, for example, to see what I mean. But as I've said before, you can go back years and see countless amounts of evidence suggesting the Labour Party are one of the most anti-British parties going, alongside the Liberal Democrats and, of course, the SNP. Now, you expect it from the SNP since they are supposed to be a nationalist independence party. Labour and its MPs are clearly ashamed of this country when the majority of the country is proud of our country, our history and our culture. Using interviews with senior party figures as well as previously unpublished polling and new analysis, the report identifies significant shortcomings in the election campaign, which followed 18 months of debilitating parliamentary wrangles over Brexit, which turned a hell of a lot of people against them. Now, we have a couple of key findings here, but we'll look at another article that has a bit more detail on them. We'll come back to that in a second. Labour Together was set up to unite MPs and activists from different traditions, a number of whom, including the former leader Ed Miliband, Steve Reed, Lisa Nandy and Jim McMahon, have been given prominent roles in the shadow cabinet of Corbyn's successor, Keir Starmer. The 2019 election review was prepared by a 15-strong panel of commissioners, including Miliband, the Manchester Central MP Lucy Powell, James Medway, who advised the former Shadow Chancellor John MacDonald, and the Birmingham Ladywood MP Shaba Mahmood. They find that Corbyn's leadership was a significant factor in the 2019 result. Obviously, his public approval ratings collapsed at around the time a group of Labour MPs, including Luciana Berger and Chuka Ramuna, left to found the independent group, citing anti-Semitism within Labour and its Brexit policy. Now, they weren't supporting Brexit or democracy when they left Labour, they were supporting Remain and essentially the Lib Dem position, which is exactly where they ended up, before they got kicked to the curb in the December election alongside Britain's future Prime Minister Joe Swinson. The report says Stop Jeremy Corbyn was a major driver of the Conservative success along all their key groups, including previous non-voters, and among all the swing voters Labour lost to the Tories. No, just supporting democracy was likely enough, but when you factor in the Corbynated chicken and the rest of the unmitigated shit show that is the Labour Party, it was a no-brainer for most people to vote against them. Had Corbyn been as popular in December as he was 2 years earlier, Labour's vote share could have been 6 percentage points higher, the analysis finds, but he still wouldn't have won at the end of the day. When it came to Labour's Radical Manifesto, launched at an upbeat rally in Birmingham, the analysis found that individual policies were popular, but doubts about the leadership stoked a perception that the package as a whole was not deliverable. A data praxis analysis of YouGov data found that many come to the conclusion that the manifesto as a whole was unrealistic, risky, and unlikely to be delivered, which is the same for all manifestos, but the Corbynated Chickens one was especially batshit crazy, in my opinion. This undermined the positive response to individual policies, making them seem less credible. Well, the whole Labour Party isn't credible, so what do you really expect? It shows that the 2017 better-than-expected performance masked the fact that Labour's vote share had continued to decline in a string of heartland seats, many of which the party went on to lose to the Conservative 2 years later. And it points out that another 58 seats could be lost with a further swing of 6% to Boris Johnson's party. So, never mind the chance that Labour could claw back some seats, they could end up actually losing another 58 if things go badly wrong for them under Sir Keir Starmer, which is always possible. Despite now representing fewer constituencies than at any time since 1935, Labour cannot afford to be complacent about the seats it currently holds, the report says, meaning Labour are in a world of hurt and likely are going to get annihilated again in the 2024 election, which I'm sure you are all looking forward to if that is the case. In order to win the additional 124 seats it needs to form a majority government in 2024, Labour would need to increase the number of MPs it has by 60%, something that has never been achieved by any party, as I've said before, which is one of the main reasons why I said Labour likely will not get in power for another 10 to 15 years after the election. It could well be more than that, possibly 20 or higher. It continues, if Labour fails to reverse its fortunes in Scotland in a significant way, it will have to win a swathe of English seats, right up to Commons leader Jacob Rees-Mogg in North East Somerset to secure a majority, meaning that ain't going to happen. We don't care about Sir Keir Starmer, we know he became the Labour leader in April, no one cares about that, it's old news. The forward-looking section of the Labour Together review is based partly on a coalition building workshop bringing together urban Remainers from London and Manchester and Leavers from towns in Lancashire and Yorkshire. Carried out by the consultancy firm, Britain Thinks, the exercise identified common ground, including a strong and unifying desire for economic transformation of their lives. Yes, but their views are completely opposed when it comes to Great Britain. This is something the Labour Party is forgetting. These urban Remainers from the city centres are not going to get on with the Leavers from the towns, because obviously they do not agree on Labour's hatred of Great Britain. These Remainers will never agree that this country is an amazing country, so the Leave voters are never really going to get on with them. You are not going to form the coalition that you think. And as I've said already, the MPs in the Labour Party hate this country anyway, so why would anyone vote for them if you have a shred of dignity about you? Obviously, it goes on down here to say that allies of Corbyn insist it was Brexit and not his leadership. We've already gone over that 100 times in previous videos. So let's check out some of these key points of this Labour report. Right, we have number 1, the defeat was huge and winning again is a vast challenge. Something I've said and we read about in there. The Labour Party stands almost no chance of winning the next election and probably the one after that at least. The results came from long-term issues masked by the 2017 result. The authors point to a long-term decline in voter loyalty to Labour connected to weaker community links such as through trade unions. It says Labour's vote share declined between 2001 and 2010, then recovered slightly in 2015 and significantly in 2017, but the fundamental issues remained. Yes, the Labour Party have been against the people of this country and what is best for it for a long time now. People are obviously starting to wake up, especially after the 2016 referendum, when Labour claimed they would honour the result and then shit the bed last year and changed their mind, as we see. Number 3, Jeremy Corbyn was deeply unpopular. That is one way of putting it. The whole country essentially thinks of him as nothing more than a terrorist sympathising, snivelling shitweasel at the end of the day. I am pretty sure he was the most disliked politician in the history of this country. I'm sure that is the only thing he has ever won. Number 4, a confused Brexit policy. That is an understatement of the century, and let's not forget, Sir Keir Starmer is the architect of that. So it's only going to continue in the future under his leadership. A manifesto seen as unrealistic. A manifesto seen as completely batshit crazy that would have bankrupted the country before we even had to deal with the coronavirus crisis. We had a lucky escape there, that is for sure. A perfect storm of obstacles, so essentially everything mixed in together, including the Corbynated chicken, Brexit and the manifesto. That I would actually have to agree with. A disorganised national campaign. Well, why the party's being run by a Marxist shitweasel with the consistency of a wet fart, what do you actually expect? The vying factions and loony lefties all wanted their own slice of the pie, while the Corbynated chicken obviously wanted to be number 1 in his Marxist utopia. A poor campaign on the ground? No, not really. The campaign wouldn't have mattered. The country fucking hated him. That is all that mattered at the end of the day. A loss of older, socially conservative voters. Well, when you go against what this country wants and run around screaming about how bad it is, what do you actually expect? This is not something that should be shocking Labour. Number 10, they became a party of the city dwellers, something we have pointed out many times on the channel and don't really need to go back into. And that is the end of it there. So the report is fairly scathing, but in my opinion missed out a major reason why the Labour Party lost the last election. That is because, of course, they are anti-British. It might fly in certain circles within the cities, but the rest of the country does not feel like that. They love this country, and rightly so. Anyone, in my opinion, who does not love their country is a complete scumbag at the end of the day. Go to any other nation in the world and ask the people there if they love their country. You will soon see them saying, of course we do. Now, as always, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who supports the channel, and my other social media links are down in the video description if you want to come and support me on Twitter, BitChute, and a variety of other platforms, including my second YouTube channel. As I said, all links are down in the video description.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires. And that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.